So, Marvel Rivals is doing really well. I'm kind of surprised about this, but let's look at how many people are still playing the game here. I'll go ahead and take a look at it. Marvel Rivals, 357,000 people playing the game. That is a lot of people. And I think it's going to continue to keep a pretty good audience for a while. Now, is it going to be forever? Probably not. Like, I have a lot of, you know, uncertainty about the longevity of the game, but it sure seems like people like it right now.
We've all heard it said that hero shooters are a declining, oversaturated genre, and we know that there's a sizable graveyard. We just saw Concord die, but of course, that's an assessment.
Nobody says that except for gaming journalists trying to make excuses for why Concord was shit so they can rationalize giving it good reviews. Hero shooters are not dead. Deadlock proved that they weren't dead. I mean, like, what are we even talking about? Absolute total bullshit. Complete bullshit.
That does not gel with Marvel Rivals' absolutely gigantic success.
Who said turn-based was dead? The Baldur's Gate 3.
Everybody has been mocking publishers over hero shooters and generally just mocking a lot of live service titles.
Yeah.
Marvel Rivals is absolutely thriving, and that is not an overstatement.
Yeah,
it got 10 million players in its first 72 hours,
Jesus.
and by now, it's actually hit 20 million. This is so much activity that Steam's backend even struggled, and for some developers, it broke. They were not able to access the Steam backend to update their stuff. And this was all timed with Marvel Rivals absolutely ramming Valve servers, and of course, their servers were getting rammed by both Tencent and NetEase, because at the same time, Path of Exile 2 did happen to be doing quite well. So much so that together, Steam actually hit a new concurrency record of 39.2 million users.
At the same... What the fuck? That is insane.
Online at once,
my god,
which is crazy. But that's not what's truly noteworthy to me.
Yeah.
A free-to-play game exploding and then just falling to pieces, or people quickly running away, a flash in the pan, that is not a surprise. It's actually what we tend to expect. And on the internet, when people tell you something is shocking, it's often hyperbole. Here, no. This is a shocking chart. This is the retention that we are seeing with Marvel Rivals, and this is genuinely impressive. It has essentially maintained its launch peak for an entire fortnight. This is a vanishingly rare achievement. It is absolutely stunning. The daily lows for this game are resting at 180k. And, well, they're good, the highs are good and regular, and I kind of remember the words of our erstwhile Prime Minister Theresa May, strong and stable. It's rare for a new game.
I think that it's doing really well. My concern is that I think that with games like that, once people lose interest in them, then people are kind of totally out of it and they don't care anymore. And that's what my concern with that would be like, after Marvel Rivals has been out for a while, then like what's going to happen after that?
Free. So what the hell's going on here? Marvel Rivals is a free-to-play just like Overwatch, but that's not really an even comparison because of price anchoring. Overwatch 1 was a paid game, and it was far less of a playable storefront than Overwatch 2 has ended up being, and that's what made Overwatch 2 sting. Of course, contrasted with all of the cool stuff that we were shown at BlizzCon.
Oh yeah, those are all the things that didn't happen.
With Rivals, well, it just has audience expectations being met. Everybody knows what to expect. I mean, for an extreme example, on this very channel, we caught a lot of flack for being harsh on the Delta Force microtransactions. To us, they were pretty damn bad microtransactions. That's why we criticized them pretty damn heavy in that video. But clearly a lot of people didn't care at all, really. And I imagine it's because it was a free-to-play game, and it basically met their expexptations.
People don't really care about free-to-play games having high microtransactions. I think with Overwatch, it's a little bit different, because people that bought Overwatch 1, the game was one way and then it got changed to something else. I think that's the reason why people kind of got frustrated with it. But in a general sense, I don't think that people care about microtransactions for cosmetics.
Rivals is made by NetEase Games. They're a group who absolutely know how to retain players based on the countless large-scale free-to-play live service titles that they run, many of which, of course, are on mobile, and, well, they have many investments in so many other games as well. Now, brand-wise, this has got Marvel, but it's got a flavor of Marvel that, at least from my outsider's perspective, doesn't seem tarnished by MCU fatigue. I mean, looking at the game, they're clearly leaning
and I think this is also another reason why it kind of did well, is because it didn't really try to copy the MCU. They kind of did like their own version of the characters. I think it looked like Wolverine is very, very different.
But Marvel Rivals has another strength. It is not wholly original, and you may think that's me just absolutely launching it into an attack, but look, it is
No, it is. Like, Marvel Rivals absolutely has a huge advantage because it capitalizes on existing characters and IPs that people are aware of. This is an objective fact. Like, I can't see not thinking this way.
But Marvel Rivals is different. Like Overwatch, it's got the split between tank, DPS, and support, and many of the 33 launch heroes do have direct crossovers, some that are absolutely leaned into. I mean, Black Widow probably doesn't need to be a sniper, and yeah, she'll definitely be like that to appeal to the Widowmaker mains. And some of them are inherent, like Hawkeye and Hanzo, who are both bow users, or Symmetra and Doctor Strange, who both use portals. But the thing that matters is that Rivals gets to cook with almost 70 years of inspiration and a wealth of real-world player experience from other hero shooters, and that means what we've got is a slick game that is...
I mean, this game looks pretty good. I mean, I'd have to really sit down and play it to know for sure, but from what I'm looking at here, it actually looks pretty high quality.
Iteration rather than a clone.
Because I thought the same thing.
Ybarra's absolutely dunked on tweet missed, and I think it's why this is a game that is actually surprising and delighting people. It has iterated and brought its formula forward, and in a way it's done that against traditional wisdom that would say that hero shooter is on the downtrend, that there's MCU fatigue, and that the track record with hero games is actually pretty damn bad. When we think hero game, we're all just going to think of PlayStation Spider-Man, but that's because we've forgotten the massive graveyard of dead games, and even like the Marvel
Superman 64,
which will of course have Square Enix's Avengers in it.
Well, that's because the game is
very
garbage.
much the lol cow of its here.
Like, this is the main reason. It's just a garbage game. Also, like, Marvel Rivals does, like, all of their characters are they're visually appealing. And I think this is a huge thing that a lot of people discount and they don't take seriously. But if you have a game that doesn't have visually appealing characters, that is a massive amount of marketing that you're just totally losing out on. Like for example, like Emeru did like this one cosplay of a Marvel Rivals character, and like the post got like, I don't know, it was like 10 million views or something like that. It was massively fucking popular. And so you have people that that will effectively advertise your game just simply because it's a good game. And because people like the characters, the Luna Snow, I think that's what it was. Yeah, exactly. And so if you don't have that in your game, you have to ask yourself why. Why would you not have that in your game?
Marvel Rivals has got half of the internet standing Jeff the Bloody Landshark, who I didn't even know existed, and it turns out has only existed since 2019. So this is not a case of put heroes in it that people know and suddenly everyone will start playing. No, what they've done...
It helps. It definitely helps. Like, having established IP that people understand is a huge bonus and a massive thing. It absolutely is. I can't imagine not thinking that. Of course it is.
They've nailed the basics. They have carefully chosen some deep pools. They've chosen things that everybody knows, and they've executed it all to an extremely high standard. The mechanical diversity of this game, especially considering that it's only just launched, is absolutely insane. And that's a large part of why people will play it over Overwatch. One team can have, let's see, a teleporting ninja fight, multiple flight-based characters, web swingers, and where the web swinging actually feels good. If you've got Rocket and Groot, then you actually get an entirely new ability and game-wide mechanic on top of your existing set. And to quote from the game's director, the awesomely named Thaddeus Sasser, well, he basically said this: I don't know about you, but when I heard the concept of the game, I was like, oh my god, I want to be Storm in a game. I want to be Doctor Strange in a game. I want these heroes in the game. That sounds awesome. And of course, my mind immediately leapt to all the cool possibilities you could have with that.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the game's popular. It definitely capitalizes on people's nostalgia and like understanding of the existing characters. And I think that it also provides like a foundation to like, okay, well, if you're doing Doctor Strange, you're probably going to have things like portals and like time mechanics, like reversing time to heal yourself, something like that. So yeah, of course, like Hawkeye is going to have a bow. Okay, it's going to be kind of like Hanzo. Yeah, of course that stuff matters.
Seems like a very trite
thing. It makes perfect sense, really.
He's the director for the game. And it's absolutely not a fair one-to-one comparison, but do you know what appears in my head? Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, where the first reaction from most people when they watched that E3 trailer was, oh, this looks like a generic third-person shooter. Why are we just doing shoot-bang with guns? This doesn't really feel like Heroes.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, broad market perception, what consumers thought, was not enough to get that game any cut through. Well, look, that's enough lavishing this game with praise.
Well, the game didn't look good. That was the problem. Like, Marvel Rivals looks good and the characters are appealing. Suicide Squad, they don't. Like, it's such a simple concept, and it's weird that so many people struggle with it, too. It's amazing.
Back to business, especially because there's a statistic that puts this whole thing in context. Matt Piscatella's got 2 decades of industry analysis experience. He's the executive director of Circana. They're a long-time analytics firm. They are not small. You actually may know one of the companies they just acquired. Nielsen, as in Nielsen of television ratings fame. So they're a big fish with massive corporate clients. Literally, their stock in trade is actually having good analytics. And what's great is Matt shares loads of games data in public.
Wow.
This chart shows the percentage of weekly actives by game title. And better than anything, this shows just how winner-takes-all this industry is.
Well, because the reason why it's winner-take-all, it's because people want to play the game that everybody is playing. It's really simple. Like in any competitive game, people want to play a popular competitive game because it means that their skill will be respected and appreciated by more people. That's why you have, whenever a game loses popularity, its competitive scene generally dies. Because as soon as that happens, well, it's like, okay, well, why do I want to be good at this game? Nobody is going to watch me or care about me being good at this game. And there's queue times as well. You know, you're right. There's other components to it, but I think this is one of the biggest reasons. Absolutely it is.
The top 5 games hold 75% of audiences, like just by player numbers. And if you're an indie, in a way, that's okay because you're fighting for the 25% of the audience, not the big 75%. You don't need that insane level of scale to be successful. But if you are a major AAA live service, you need to make a dent in that 75%. You need to fight with those games that are taking so many people in an absolute winner-takes-all industry. And of course, it's failing to do that leads to the likes of, say, X-Defiant going under the way that it did.
And another big problem is, like, a lot of games have a really bad first impression. Like, Suicide Squad had a really bad first impression.
Basically the big point, nailing fantasy and using the comics as an excuse to go extremely hard on designs and to make those designs fundamentally appealing. That has worked. Look, I'm not trying to be cruel to Concord on purpose, but just look at the skin variants. Look at what they look like.
Well, they're ugly and disgusting. Nobody wants to be these characters, so of course nobody wants to play a game where you play as the characters. It's not complicated.
Look at the things that you can buy within this game. So, Mr. Herman Hulst of PlayStation, if you're confused about why Concord, which you reportedly were really bullish about, if you're kind of confused why it didn't really work out, this is a really good example. But even with all that good, there are 2 things to discuss. Number 1, business model. It's coming under some critique, and for strange ways, because it does seem a little bit pretty thought out. But also that this game is actually walking a very similar path to Overwatch, and they are going to have to be careful and make sure that they do not step into all of the rakes that, of course, Blizzard stepped into.
I think that they will. I feel like a game like Marvel Rivals will be popular, will be really popular for a while, and then people will kind of lose interest in it, the same as anything else. Like, that's fine. But, like, hopefully it'll be fun for 6 months, right?
The next thing to talk about then is the challenge of running a game like this, because already they are seeing cries and demands from players for the sorts of features that some people in Overwatch loved and others didn't. Launch Overwatch 1 was a blast. It was an often busted blast.
This is always what happens, is that they the problem is that if you overbalance the game, you end up making it not fun for people. But it's like a very delicate balance between, like, doing it too much and then not enough.
Any of us experienced that with the Classic event. Now, with top-down pressure to focus in the Overwatch League and an internal desire to actually make Overwatch 2 PvE instead, so that they could have a stepping stone to something that would approximate Project Titan, the failed MMO, it's safe to say that Overwatch struggled with direction just a little bit. That still is playing out today, where Overwatch has basically morphed into its PvP self, and if you had hopes for anything else, well, man, that just sucks. Now, Rivals is a bit like launch Overwatch. Some shit is completely busted, and it's a bloody good time that's thrilling players, but it does mean they're seeing similar pressures. A lot of people want some
Because every single day that the game is unbalanced, more people start playing meta builds and meta things. And that's what I've seen happen with a lot of people, is that you just have the metas build up more and more and more until the meta is just completely definitive. and like everybody plays this all the time. And like in competitive games, you have like added pressure. Because in a single player game, like Path of Exile maybe, or like Elden Ring, there are still meta builds, but the meta isn't as punishing because you don't have peer pressure to play the meta. But with a competitive game, you do.
Of role log. They will also want some form of role queue. How are they going to deal with this? And I say that because we've typically seen live service shooters through a ranked progress first esports-focused lens, something I see a lot of pushback to in comments of our videos. So navigating that is going to be a challenge here, especially because they have got such a broad audience. An audience that, in terms of its dynamics, I would say is far closer to the Overwatch 1 ginormous audience than the far smaller and I suppose more clearly competitive PvP-focused Overwatch 2 audience. Now, where Overwatch was torn between multiple directions, it's clear that things are going to be a little bit different here because this game is launching the way that it was intended. It's got 3-month seasons, multiple maps and heroes a season. That's the way that the thing is set up. They also get to have obvious marketing around films, major comic things, games, but right now, its real strength is a distinct lack of a calcified ranked PvP focused culture, which is what's set in Overwatch 2. Where of course,
this is what happens with every game like this, is that it just gets too competitive and then casual players quit. That's what I think I would be worried about the most. Are they going to be able to succeed or not? I think that it depends. I don't know. I mean, as I said, I don't think that a game like this is going to have a long lifespan, but I think also people need to be more accepting of playing a game for a while and then not playing it anymore. Because I feel like nowadays what ends up happening is because people get so fixated on constantly and like wanting to invest all of their time and energy into like one specific game. And in doing so, I think it just... I mean, I would say I think it just kind of burns people out, and people want one game to be everything that it could possibly be. Yeah, just move on. Yeah, exactly, right? Like, yeah, the game's going to be popular and fun for a while, and then when it's not, then stop playing it. I feel like people try to make too much of an investment into video games. I think I'm going to play more. I'm going to play and try out Marvel Rivals and see what the game is like. Yeah, I've already downloaded it. And you're going to be so bad, though? I mean, I'm going to be as bad as anybody else starting the game. I mean, shit.